The vanishing Uighur Muslims. The Uighur Muslims have been struggling for justice after years of being targeted and abused both physically and mentally, their lives put at risk due to the re-education camps in, pardon me if I butcher this, Xinjiang, China. The Uighur Muslims, who are they? The Uyghurs, also spelled in these ways, native to Xinjiang, is in the northwest region in China, are a Turkish ethnic group holding a rich culture and history. The majority are Muslim. Many Uyghurs consider themselves Turkish and not Chinese. There have been multiple times in the past where Xinjiang was not under Chinese control. Xinjiang, China. Xinjiang, China is where the majority of the population of Uyghurs live. It's closely watched by the government. Many cameras are posted on the streets of the cities and people are closely monitored. For example, it's really hard for a journalist to record what's really happening here. In a short documentary film by HBO, the reporter had actual footage deleted because the police there had made her delete it to try and keep what's really happening under wraps. They came up to her and took her camera and looked at the footage. Here are some of the photos of the camps in Xinjiang. As you can see, most of them have short hair or shaved heads, and it looks like prison. Up to 1 million Uighur Muslims are suspected to be missing. Most of the detainees' families have not been informed and have been kept in the dark about what's really happening to the people they care about. The children of these people have also gone missing or have been put to live with the government. So many of the detainees have or had children. What the government does with these children once they rip them away from their parents is put them into a kindergarten, more like an orphanage, the kids whose parents have been taken to stay there. Some are moved even 300 miles away from the place they once lived and or are separated from their siblings. The re-education camps. The damage done within these camps is extensive, from torture to mental manipulation. They're stripped to a blank state, learning only what the Chinese government deems necessary. These internment camps strip their culture and their history away. They abuse the detainees mentally and physically, and yet the world stays quiet. Most, if not all, who are taken to the camps are accused of terrorism and are ripped away from their families, vanishing completely. Though little knowledge is given to the public about what really happens within these re-education camps, from what we know, the damage is immense. They use various ways to torture you, with the common use of the tiger chair, a device commonly used for interrogation, seen here. One woman there had her feet shackled for over a year. Another, a man, had been put into solitary confinement for over a month. When taken into these camps, they don't want you to come out. They want you to be untrackable, to disappear. Some detainees even speak of sexual harassment and abuse. Before every meal, 3 songs had to be sung, consisting of, and I quote, "Without the Communist Party, there won't be a new China," or, "The Communist Party toiled for the nation." If you refused to sing, you were tortured. If you did sing, you got to eat. You were also forced to learn Mandarin. No other language is permitted, thus stripping the culture of the Uighur Muslims away. The world tends to have an uproar about things that are happening in the world and then never talk about it again. This has to stop happening. Problems won't be fixed this way, and the Uighur Muslims need help before an entire population of people is gone. Most people who are taken to the camps are, of course, accused of terrorism. Kalbiner Tursun. Who is she? Kalbiner Tursun is a woman who was put into one of the camps, as well as some of the people she knows personally. She's went through terrible things, and since she has moved out of Xinjiang, is sharing with the public her story. Multiple tests are run before entering the camps. Her and a few others came out and advised the world. So, before entering, they underwent many tests. She underwent a pregnancy test because if you were pregnant, they'd terminate it immediately without your real consent. Blood tests were run as well, and they would also record your voice and take samples of your DNA. They would also document your face, even the shape of your nose. You were completely underneath their control. What happened to the children? When a child's parents are taken to the camps and is left alone, they go to one of the many kindergartens. These kindergartens are like a re-education camp for children. They teach you the same ideals taught at the real internment camps. If you're a child and you have no home, this is where you would live. This happened for Kelbanar Tursun and her children. Here is a photo of one of the kindergartens in Hotan, China, in Xinjiang. It is seen as a very colorful, welcoming place, but the fences are lined with barbed wire. So for Kelbanar Tursun, when her and her husband left, she had only left with her son and her daughter, leaving 5 of her other children behind because they wouldn't issue their passports. The 5 of the children were separated and put to the kindergartens, and the main reason she left was because she was pregnant. She did not know, if she stayed, she didn't know if the child would be born alive or be killed by the Chinese government. Her husband returned to Xinjiang to wait for their children's passports. It's been 3 years since she last saw any of her children. She has only but one video, and it's of one of her daughters in a re-education camp for kids, one of the kindergartens. All of the kids in the video are seen with short hair or clean-shaven heads. Her daughter as well. All of the children have been separated miles away from their hometown. What remains of her family now live in Istanbul. Tight security. The security in Xinjiang is extremely strict. Cameras line the streets along with many, many police officers. If you're a reporter there or even just a tourist, you'll be watched religiously. The cops will go so far to being undercover and follow you if you're seen with a camera. So there are specific areas to take photos, such as tourist locations and sidewalks. And if the videos they see on your phone or camera are deemed suspicious, you'll be forced to delete them completely. This is all part of the intense security in Xinjiang, China. Security is so tight you can't even talk about what's happening, or you'll be sentenced to jail or disappear. What is actually taught in the camps? So there's a huge chunk of knowledge that is unknown to the public, for obvious reasons, about what really goes on in the camps. But because of a few brave reporters, we know a little bit more than before. So because of the lack of information we have, very little is known about the real reality of what happens in these camps. Though we do know one thing for sure. The main thing taught in these camps is that the Chinese government is supreme and you have to abide by their rules or there will be consequences. They preach about the unity of ethnicities to try and hide the fact that what could be considered a genocide is happening within the very place they gospelize so much. The women in the camps are forced to take birth control. The government wants an ethnic cleansing. In schools, Uyghurs are taught that they are Chinese and Chinese only, their culture ripped away from them once again and hidden away in these camps. The camps are meant to ruin and brainwash the Uighur Muslims. Their deep history isn't ever taught in schools or to the Uyghur kids themselves, unless by their parents, but the risk of consequence is very high when doing so. The Uyghurs are people of a rich past, having Turkish and even some European descent, and yet it is being taken away. After completing the induction program given by the camps, you're put to work at factories working under conditions that could be considered forced labor. Here is a short video on what is happening in Xinjiang, China.
A new leak of classified Chinese government documents has exposed the secret details behind China's mass detention camps.
It's very, very important that these documents are from 2017, because that's when the whole re-education campaign started. And it really shows that from the onset, the Chinese government had a plan in how to secure the vocational training centers.
The classified documents include a lengthy memo that basically serves as a how-to manual on how to detain an ethnic minority population.
Religious extremism and terrorism are closely linked with each other. Despite the difficulty in solving the issue, training centers are expected to find the answer.
These documents are really sort of the operational mechanics of the large-scale activities going on in Xinjiang.
The documents also confirm many eyewitness accounts, including how doors must be double locked, how there are guards and guard towers, and a very strict daily regimen. If guards were instructed to prevent escape, so-called abnormal deaths, and epidemics. There's also a section about how all camp personnel must maintain absolute secrecy about the camp.
These classified government documents, it's like one important piece of a puzzle, consistent with witness evidence. I think that's what makes it so significant.
So, as you can see, they've denied any claim against them and used the excuse of religious extremism and terrorism. Kalbanur Siddiq? Not sure, but Kalbanur Siddiq is a Uighur Muslim who was forced to work in China's internment camps. She taught Mandarin. She's seen too many terrible things and she couldn't be silent. Though the danger of what she's doing is immense, she had to come out. The government told her not to talk about any of the things she's seen with her husband or her family. They had her sign a confidentiality contract. If she spoke against them, they threatened her family and her friends. The detainees she saw wore shackles and handcuffs. Once she had said, sorry if I butcher this again, Assalamu alaikum. The minute she said it, she knew she had said something wrong. She was also given an IUD, like the detainees. After it malfunctioned multiple times, they kept trying until she had to get a sterilization operation. What she saw done to the woman there was brutal, once seeing a girl being gang raped by police officers. I'd include the details, but they're far too graphic. In conclusion, the abuse these people have gone through has gone on long enough. It's like a time bomb. If this doesn't stop, one day the Uighur Muslims will vanish for real. Something has to be done. Even the people living in Xinjiang have been so desensitized they've lost hope. It's the new norm. This is why something needs to be done. Thank you. Sources.